Hi, and welcome to Love on the Autism Spectrum Season 2. If you're a regular listener, please feel free to jump to about the minute and a half mark to skip this introduction. If you're new here, I want to say I'm your host, Barbara Lazzaroni, licensed marriage and family therapist, neurodivergent coach, and creator of the Neurodivergent Spiral of Life. Please call me Blaze. All my friends do. This podcast is for autistic adults, adults with ADHD or complex trauma, and the partners who love them, as well as neurodivergent couples, especially those who are tired of being told to communicate better, try harder, or fix themselves in systems that were never designed for how they're wired. Here, we slow things down. We talk about real relationships, real nervous systems, and real life without fixing, pathologizing, or rushing your process. I bring clinical experience along with decades of lived relationship experience to create a calm, emotionally intelligent space where nothing about you needs to be defended, explained, or justified. Each episode is an invitation to understand yourself, your partner, and your patterns with more compassion, clarity, and choice. We make lots of room for nervous system safety, emotional truth, and the patterns that actually shape neurodiverse relationships without blame, pressure, or performance. This isn't therapy advice. It's lived experience, clinical wisdom, and steady support for those of us who are wired differently. So take a breath, settle in. I am so glad you're here. And just a quick note before we dive in. This podcast is for reflection and education, not therapy. Licensing doesn't create a therapeutic relationship, and I'm only licensed in the state of California. Any client examples I share are purely fictional, and all of the tools or stories are meant to support your self-reflection, not replace personalized care. If you're in crisis or need immediate support, please reach out to a local professional or call 988 in the United States. Okay, now let's get to today's episode. Hello and welcome to Love on the Autism Spectrum, episode number 14. Today's episode is entitled When You Start Seeing Autism in Your Relationship. And as you know, Autism Awareness Month is the entire month of April. Last week, we talked about autism assessment specifically with a little bit of ADHD and ADHD mixed in. And for the rest of the month, we'll be focusing on all things autism. So I invite you to slow down a little bit. Let's just get settled into this space. And this podcast, particularly, is for the partner who has started to notice something. Maybe they've started to notice patterns or differences, or maybe that feeling has gotten louder, that feeling that one of the two of you are not quite meeting in the same place, not because you don't care about each other. However, it's because something isn't lining up. And maybe recently a thought has crossed your mind. Could my partner have autism? Hmm. Today we're going to talk about what happens when you start seeing autism in your relationship and how to move towards understanding without rushing into certainty. So there's often a very specific moment that this begins. A time where a conversation doesn't land or a repair doesn't happen. And many people tell me it's actually the feeling of being alone, even while you're sitting next to someone you love. And slowly, you start to connect the dots. Patterns that used to feel confusing begin to feel actually explainable. And that feeling those feelings can bring relief. They can also bring a whole heck of a lot of tension because you see something and it's hard to unsee it. This is where many people want to move quickly into certainty. They want to, let me say this in air quotes, fix something. Well, here's the thing. Autism is not something that's about your partner that is broken. They're not broken, and neither are you. Nothing actually needs to be fixed. What actually needs to happen is for us to shine a light on the patterns that are happening between the two of you. So many people want to move into this certainty. So they know that this problem can be fixed and this explains everything. And this is what's going on. However, certainty or perceived certainty can create a distance in a relationship because it can feel like a conclusion before the other person has even had a chance to understand what's happening. Yeah. Ooh. I've worked with many partners who arrive at this space. They've been holding things together for a long time. They've been managing conversations and trying to explain their needs and feeling unseen, but not wanting to blame the other. And then they come across something. Maybe it's a checklist, a story, a description, a book they're reading, one of my podcasts or one of my blog posts, or even one of my Substack articles. And then something clicks. This feels familiar. And for a moment, there is relief because now there's an explanation. Now they know what's happening for their partner. All they have to do is go and tell them. Oof, oof, right? So let me share this from a couple's perspective. I was just thinking of a couple that I work with. She came in feeling exhausted. She described carrying most of the emotional weight in the relationship. She's the one who initiates the conversations. She's the one that's trying to repair after conflict or begging her partner to repair after conflict. She's also the one typically explaining over and over and over again what she needed. And her partner, on the other hand, feels confused. He didn't experience the relationship as strained in the same way. He was showing up. He was committed. He cares and continues to care. In fact, many times, the he's in the world that I get to talk with, he loves his partner so much. He does not understand what she's talking about. But he didn't track the emotional layer in the same way. And when she brought up the possibility, in this case, of autism, it didn't land as insight for him. It landed as pressure. And his first words are, what? What? So now something's wrong with me? It, no, it's actually, no, nothing can be wrong with me. That's typically the words that I hear. And the conversation quickly becomes tense. And they come to me and they come to me and they're still in this same dance of him saying, no, can't be me. Actually, it's just, she's just too much. She's too much for me. She doesn't understand who I am. And he's feeling shamed and blamed and wrong. Again, we talked about this last week, and I want to share it again this week because this is super important. This is what we call the double empathy problem, described by Damian Milton. It's not that one person understands and the other doesn't. It's that both people are making sense from their own their own internal experience. Right now, I've got my fingers, all my fingers touching my clavicle bone. It's like from our own experience. However, those experiences do not naturally translate to our partner. So one partner might experience something like, I am trying so hard and you're not meeting me. And the other one experiences, I'm doing what I know to do. And I don't understand why that's not enough. Honestly, both of them are real. And without shared understanding, both people feel alone and continue to feel alone. That's why the process of couples therapy and couples coaching for people that are neurodiverse, gotta tell you, this we spend plenty of time in the beginning in this space where people still feel alone. It takes us a while to get deeper. So, from a relational perspective, Sue Johnson, I hope you've read Sue Johnson's work. I am rereading her work again because I'm so just attuned to what she's saying. One of her books is entitled Hold Me Tight. And what she describes is there's often a deeper question beneath these moments. And the deeper question is this: are you there for me? Let me say that again. Are you there for me? When that question isn't answered clearly, both partners move into protection. One may pursue, trying harder to connect. The other may pull back, trying to manage their overwhelm. This is the truth, though there is nothing wrong. However, without understanding of this pursue-withdrawal pattern, both people feel like they're being rejected. When in essence, both people want to know, you're there for me? Oh, you are there for me, period, exclamation point. So if you've started to see patterns with your partner, I gotta tell you, your noticing matters. And how you move with that noticing matters just as much. You don't have to turn it into a conclusion. You can stay in curiosity. Curiosity is actually one of those words that really deeply resonates with me. Can we stay in the curiosity? Can we not jump to judgment? Could we just stay with, I wonder what this is. I wonder how they feel. Whew, gosh, what's showing up for me? What shows up for me when they don't feel like they're there? Ooh, lots of my clients say what shows up for me when it feels like they're not there is I don't know where to be. Sometimes I want to rush forward and, try and get them to talk to me. Other times I just feel like I need to withdraw because it feels like they only want me to do what they want to do. So if this conversation is resonating, there's a few ways to stay connected with me. You can follow my blog. It's on my website entitled Love on the Autism Spectrum, where I write more in depth about relationship dynamics and communication patterns and neurodivergent identity. A lot of my blogs are really written from a clinical perspective. Okay. My podcasts are more of about talking about how this shows up in the therapy room from a clinical perspective, yes, but also more of a practical perspective. And then you can also find me on Substack. And my website there is called Love on the Autism Spectrum, where I share more personal reflections that happen on moments like this, what I see happen between clients, actually, what even happens for me as a clinician. So, this week's Substack is entitled Curiosity is Safer Than Certainty. Both spaces you can return to. plus this one, of course, without pressure, at your own pace. And you'll find my links in the show notes. So let's go back to this couple that I was just talking about. With this couple, we slowed everything down. We moved away from the question, which is he autistic? Please tell him he's autistic, because I've been telling him and he doesn't believe me. We moved away from all of that. What we did is we actually moved toward what's happening between you two. What does she experience in moments of disconnection? What does he experience in those same moments? And I want to say, I'm using some pronouns here. I work with same-sex couples. I work with gender non-conforming couples. So please insert your proper pronouns. And as we mapped all of this out between the two of them, something shifted. He began to understand the impact, not as information, he began to understand the impact, not as criticism, rather more like information. Yeah, he felt like she had been criticizing him, like he had to get this autism diagnosis, and she discovered it for him, so she was going to give him the answer, and that answer would fix everything between them. Whew. Yeah, no, that usually rarely works. He began to understand she wasn't criticizing him, she was actually just trying to bring him information. And she began to see his experience not as avoidance, but more as a difference between the two of them. He wasn't avoiding getting an assessment. It's just that they were different. He wanted to be acknowledged for his difference. And from that place is where the conversation changed. Not because they had a diagnosis. However, if they wanted one, they could get one. Rather, because they had understanding. They had an understanding between the two of them. So if you're in this space, I want you to consider this for home play. Try this. Instead of asking or saying, let's say this, let me do it differently. Instead of saying, this is what you are, ... Try maybe saying something more like this. Hey, honey, I'm noticing this pattern. I want to understand it with you. I'm curious. What do you see? When we stay in observation and stay in curiosity, we let understanding come into the room. It's like understanding actually opens the door and sits down on the sofa between the two people in the relationship. And that understanding is the facilitator. That's what I do a lot of times in couples work. Trying to help one partner understand the other one. So we let that understanding build before we actually jump to certainty. So again, as we begin to wrap up this podcast, I want to tell you, again, this episode pairs with my blog this week. The blog title this week is How to Tell If Your Partner is Autistic, Understanding Love on the Spectrum. And for a more personal reflection, you can read Substack again, which is called That Week. My tongue is getting tied. This week's Substack essay is entitled Curiosity is Safer Than Certainty. So curiosity creates space. It's luscious. It's warm. It's juicy. It leaves room for understanding to come in and sit down. It allows that space for understanding between two people in a relationship to grow. And really, what we want as human beings is to be seen and heard and known for who we are, not to try and change. So that understanding actually lands in that third one, to be known for who we are. So, to learn more about this topic and explore my blog posts and therapy and coaching and assessment offerings, and to even learn more about me and the work I do, please visit my website entitled Love on the Autism Spectrum. And I just want to say thank you so much for listening today. And I hope this helps. Staying in a place of curiosity. Yeah. So take care. Be well. Bye now.